Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine. Today, we are welcomed with Stone Ambrose. How we doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Justin?
Great. I love the name. The name's interesting. What inspiration came behind the Stone Ambrose name? Just to jump right into questions,
S-
I guess.
So, the inspiration behind my name is funny because it is my actual birth name.
Okay,
It is, so I
that's
get
it.
asked that all the time. Uh, if it's my real name, like if Stone's my real name, if Ambrose is my real last name, and it is. I remember my first day at training, at wrestling training, I met my trainer Isaias and I introduced myself, and he was like, "Well, that has to be your wrestling name, right?" And I was like, "I couldn't imagine it being anything else."
That's great. That's great. Before we get into any further questions, are there any social medias or anything like upcoming events you want to plug and let people know where they can find you?
Yes, so my Instagram and my Twitter are both at the Stone Ambrose. I've got shows coming up still in February and in March. I keep them posted on both platforms of social media. As of recording this Saturday, I'll be part of Freelance's third annual student show, which is always my one of my favorite shows of the year. Very big, very important match for me. Following week, I'll be at Midwest Championship Wrestling. Uh, a lot of my upcoming stuff is teaming with my tag team partner Robbie Reeves as part of White Meat. Um, but yeah, there's plenty of places you can catch me. Catch me with Robbie, catch me by myself. I keep it posted on Instagram and Twitter at the Stone Ambrose.
Sounds good. Uh, Seeing as how this is the I Love Wrestling podcast, I'm going to start with when did you fall in love with wrestling?
I fell in love with wrestling as most people did the second they saw it. Um, I remember the first time I was exposed to wrestling was just a random Friday night where my parents had to go to the store. So they turned on the TV, and my stepdad turned on SmackDown and left that for me to watch while they went to the store. And by the time they got back, I knew everything about everybody. And I was hooked. I had to find out when I could watch it next. So I was watching every Raw, every SmackDown from that point on. And this goes back to 2007. I was 7 years old at the time, and I've been hooked since.
Were you a sports kid growing up? Did you partake in like football, basketball, anything like that?
I took part in bowling mostly.
Okay.
So not the most sporty thing. I also dabbled in track and cross country. But as far as like anything else, I was more of a I'll watch it, but not that very athletically gifted when it comes to like basketball or football.
Okay. Was there any like, did you go to college or any like plan B maybe other than wrestling?
No, there really wasn't a plan B. Once I knew, and my mindset was kind of I don't really want to go and put like my life savings into something that isn't my number one passion when what I want to do for the rest of my life is wrestle. So there was never really a plan B.
Okay. What ultimately like made you decide, hey, let's jump into training?
The day that I credit for when I decided that this was what I had to do was the day that it was actually the day that CM Punk came back to wrestling as a whole when he returned to AEW the first time. Because not only am I a lifelong Punk fan, being from Chicago, but that same day, a good friend of mine, you might be familiar, he signed to NXT under the name Idris Enofe. That same
Okay.
day, he got signed as part of like the SummerSlam Las Vegas tryouts. So between somebody that I knew personally making it that far and then seeing a childhood hero come back all in the same day, I was like, yeah, this is truly what I love and what I need to be doing.
And how did you go about finding the right training facility?
I Googled schools near me in Chicago. I read into a couple of them. The two that stood out, obviously, Freelance and CSW. And I couldn't really tell you what landed me on Freelance over CSW. It was just I had good conversation with Matt Nix over email or over DMs on Instagram, and before I knew it, I just wanted to jump right in. So it was just right away I knew freelance was the one for me.
Okay. What's your time been like at the Freelance Training Academy?
It's been very, very interesting because when I first started with freelance, we were at the old location that we're not at anymore now. Um, and there weren't any walls in the building. It was just this big open space. And on my very first day, I showed up and both of the rings that we used to train with were broken. So it was a very abnormal day for my first day. So day one, I'm learning how to repair the rings, how to take them down, all that. Second day, I show up, we just don't have either rings to work with. So I got put on the spot and we did a promo class. And I'm like, oh, great. I don't know what I got myself into. Like, I don't know anybody here. So I have to cut a promo in front of like 20 other people that I don't know. This is so nerve-wracking. But I got up there and did it. And I feel like that helped me get comfortable really quickly. And yeah, ever since that first week, those first couple weeks of just learning the ring, learning about everybody before I even got to start doing anything wrestling related, uh, helped pave the way, helped start some connections that I've kept with people since day one. And yeah, it's been a journey.
How long would you say you actually trained before you made your first match?
So I started in April of 2021 and or is that true? No, April of 2022. My bad. I don't even know
Okay.
what year it is right now.
It's rough.
Um, yeah, April of 2022, and I made my debut at the first ever student show that we did in March of 2023, the following year.
Okay.
So it was just under a year from when I started my training.
So you're just about 2 years after your debut,
Yeah, next
official
month.
debut.
Yeah, next month will be my 2 year anniversary of when I had my first match.
Okay. So looking back, now that we're about 2 years in, how are you feeling walking through that curtain for the first time?
For the first time, I was so nervous because being that it was the student show, it was on all of us on the show to kind of get an audience there. So I knew that a good portion of the crowd was my friends and family who either didn't know I was doing this or maybe didn't believe that I could do it. So there was a lot of pressure. That and like the whole aspect of I'm going out there and I'm about to wrestle in a Speedo in front of like my family. I just had to block a lot of thoughts out of my mind to really get in the zone. And I wasn't fully comfortable with myself as a performer yet at that point. I'd say I was ready to have a match, but as far as like a persona goes, I didn't know who I was. That's something that you learn as you go. So definitely how I was going through the curtain the first time versus how I was a year later at the next student show, complete 180.
What do you think's been like something that helps you get more comfortable inside that ring?
Just time and paying attention to the crowd, whether it's a smaller, like 20 person show or whether it's a couple hundred, you always want to focus on the crowd because that's what's going to help you figure out what works, what doesn't work, what kind of connections you can make with people. Uh, I know that's what helped me, especially because if you go in there and you're just doing things for you, you're not really paying attention to how others are reacting to you, you're not going to know who you are. Like I said, when you pay attention and see what works, that helps you develop more confidence because it's like, okay, I can do this again or try this here. And it just it gives you more confidence. It helps you be more comfortable.
Over the last 2 years, like, what do you think's, um, like, where do you feel personally you've progressed the most, like inside or outside of the ring?
I'd say for me, my journey's been a very big like character development story because when I first debuted, I was just a white meat baby face. I was going out there, I was pale, and I had no real persona behind me. And over time, I've been able to develop an actual personality within the ring, uh, from curtain to curtain with my entrance in the ring after the match, everything. And that's helped me grow and be more confident with myself as far as the actual wrestling goes, because I couldn't tell you if I'm that much of a better wrestler as far as like pure graps goes from when I debuted versus now. I would hope I'm better 2 years later, but I believe it's the character work and the personality that I've gained that has helped me be a better wrestler.
Who would you say the biggest inspirations are for Stone Ambrose as a character?
As a character, I try and stray away from wrestling when I think of a character inspiration. So
Okay.
like I am the very good boy in most places. So my inspiration comes from literally watching TV and seeing dogs on TV, like Scooby-Doo, Snoopy, Bluey, even Brian Griffin. Like I take little pieces of everything that I see, and it doesn't always dogs either. Sometimes it's like Kevin from Home Alone or Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle. It's these like underdog-esque characters that I've kind of just taken pieces and pieces from each of them and morphed into myself.
Okay. As far as like, let's say in the ring, who would you say like your biggest inspirations are?
My biggest inspirations in ring, well, my favorite wrestler of all time is Bryan Danielson. Uh, I wouldn't say I necessarily much like him, but he's somebody who I always looked at as like he is a smaller guy who is able to get in there with anybody, whether they're his size, a little bit bigger, or a lot bigger, and he will sell the story. He will make it believable, whatever he has to get across. I don't think there's anybody like him who can do what he does in the ring. There's things that he thinks of that I see and I'm like, that's genius. And that's how I try to be, not so much like the technical aspect of it, like how he is, like how they have a whole Bryan Danielson award for technical wrestlers, but just the idea of somebody that size being the ultimate underdog.
What's it been like for you in these 2 years to get in the ring with, indie guys like Calvin Tankman or Shane Mercer, or even a great female athlete like Kylie Ray?
So, God, being in the ring with Shane Mercer especially has been something else because that dude is so strong. he does things that I've been a victim of more than once has been the moonsault and battery and the military press into the crowd that he does. And anytime I've been on the receiving end of that, all I can think is I couldn't fight out of this if I tried. Uh, that dude is just freakishly strong, and knowing just where he's been, what he's done in wrestling, he just got a shout out on Raw from Mike Cole the other day,
Yeah.
when Logan Paul wrestled Rey Mysterio. He did moonsault and battery, and Michael Cole literally said shout out to the Iron Demon. So that's cool because that's somebody that I've gotten to share the ring with. He's great. He is fantastic in the ring. Same with Calvin Tankman. I've always been a big fan of him. He is just an ungodly beast in the ring. Another dude who is just too strong for his own good. Somebody that I couldn't fight back and stop him from throwing me around the ring if I tried.
Do you do you have any dream matches?
Um, un unrealistic dream matches in the sense that in the near future this probably won't happen, but I've always thought that Bryan Danielson's number one. That's my most like unbelievable dream match, just because I don't even know if he's like retired now, but I'm not at that like stage to even have a match like that. I think of other guys that are very character based, like an Orange Cassidy, and I think like I could really mesh well with that, with what I do versus what he does. Uh, but as far as where I'm at now, I really enjoy just getting in the ring with my friends more than anything else. Um, so like people that I've already wrestled, I still consider a dream match because in my mind, I've wrestled guys like Nick Codis, Robbie Reeves, but now I want to wrestle them again on bigger stages and really show what we can do because of that in-ring and out-of-ring connection that I've formed with those guys.
Okay. Um, One of the accolades I've seen that you've been able to achieve is at HAW, Hail to the King. You walked out HAW Reborn champion. What was that matchup like, and what was it like, getting championship gold for the first time?
Yeah, so that was the first singles title, first and only singles title that I've held. The way that match came about is beyond me because originally for that show, advertised was myself and Robbie Reeves in a tag match against just one of their other tag teams. I find out while I'm at work the night before that our opponents had to pull off the show. So we're like, okay, we don't know what we're doing in 12 hours. Um, and by the time I got there, I found out I was in this title match. And somehow, some way, I left with the belt. So it was a very surreal experience considering literally 12 hours before, literally an hour into the car ride, I didn't know what I was going to be doing on that show that day. But at the end of the day, I walked out with my first ever singles title. So it's very nice to be in that position where a company and a promoter will trust you because that's their brand right there. You're carrying around something with their logo on it. You are representing their company. So it's a lot of trust being put in you as a person, as a performer to really represent the brand and the company as a whole.
Do you think maybe within the next year or so you could maybe be a two-time Reborn champion or even a championship higher up the card?
So I'm not sure about the Reborn Championship, but as far as Honor Among Wrestling goes, Robbie and I will be competing for the first ever tag team titles on their
Okay.
next show on March 8th at the Bettendorf Community Center. So that's the agenda for this year is for the two of us to be the first ever tag team champions in Honor Among Wrestling. We're wrestling Jack Fowler and Eddie Grayson in a 2 out of 3 falls match
That'll be
on that
good.
show. Yeah, I'm excited for that because we don't like Jack, we don't like Eddie, and we're gonna go 2-0 against them, and we're gonna probably hold those titles hostage for the rest of the year.
Okay.
That's the goal.
I'll I'm interested in that because I've had both Jack and Eddie on.
I'm
So
aware.
like that'll be something I'm paying attention to. How did you and Robbie Reeves come to join forces?
He's just somebody that I met in training who, right off the bat, our chemistry was very noticeable, not even so much at a wrestling standpoint, but just as two friends. Our humor, the way we bounce off of each other, the way we joke around with other people without even having to like conversate about anything. Him and I have had very telepathic comedic situations with other people where him and I are on the same wavelength. So we knew from a very early stage that if we got together and teamed up, that it would be a lot of fun. And we finally got the chance to do that a few months into our careers, and we've had just unbelievable amount of fun with it ever since, whether it's been for freelance, for Honor Among Wrestling, for Defiant, anywhere we've gone that we've teamed at, we've had a ton of fun.
Who came up with the white meat name?
I think that was kind of a collective name we came up with, just because at the time that's just what we saw each other as. We're a couple white meat baby faces, and you shorten that down to white meat. Is what we are. He would get a lot more of a tan in the summer, so I'd kind of be the white part. He'd be the meat part. Since then, I tan a lot more, and he's shed a lot of weight. So we're kind of outgrowing the name, but white meat still is going strong 2 years later, whether we fit the name as much as we did 2 years ago or not.
What's been your favorite moment so far tagging with Robbie?
Tagging with Robbie, it would have to be the match we had last April for freelance. It was us against PME and Craig Mitchell and Shane Mercer. That was what I feel like really made us stand out as a team. I remember there was a point in the match early on, him and I had both been taken out. It was the other two teams were in the ring, and the crowd was chanting for white meat. And I'm laying there because I had just gotten tossed into the crowd, and I'm like, damn, they're chanting for us right now, and we're not in the ring. Like we're not doing anything. So I felt like that was almost a star-making performance for the two of us. It was something that I remember getting to the back and just being on like cloud nine. I had so much adrenaline. I felt like I could run through a brick wall with how good that match left me feeling.
What do you think the future holds for you guys as a tag team?
Hopefully a lot. Like I said, we have the Honor Among Wrestling Tag Team Championship match coming up. So we're looking to become first ever champions there. We just had a year-long reign as tag team champions at Defiant. And this is a year where him and I both really feel like it is make or break for us as a tag team in freelance, where we really have to prove ourselves. We really have to show that we mean business. Um, we're looking to capture the hearts of everybody in the crowd as we go out there. We want to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be, regardless of the show that we're on. Um, we want to be two guys that any promoter, any company can reach out to and say, we need you two to do this, and I want to be able to do exactly that for them. And, if some gold comes along the way, that'd be cool too.
Okay. What what are your goals as far as yourself for 2025?
For 2025, I'd really like to grow, whether that is physically put on more size or just expand myself as far as where I'm at on certain shows and what I can bring to the table for certain shows. I want to be reliable. I want to be somebody with a good rep, somebody that, in the same sense that I said that I want promoters to be able to reach out to me and Robbie and say, we need you two for this. I want the same promoters to be able to reach out to just me and say, I need you for this specific thing for this show and be able to do exactly that for them. I just want to be the best version of me that I can be, all while getting better physically, mentally, emotionally while doing all that.
Uh, I know we've touched on a little bit, but have you and Robbie sat down and talked about maybe goals that you two want to achieve together for this year, or is it just focus on the Honor Among Wrestling Championships, Tag Team Championships, and to focus on freelance?
We'd really like to get out of there, like get out there as a team. One of the things that I feel like holds some people back is they limit themselves to certain areas in
Mhm.
wrestling. So like a lot of the shows that you'll go to in the Midwest, you're going to see the same faces over and over and over. And we'd really like to expand our horizons and get ourselves out there uh, more globally, more nationwide, um, whether that is a 6 hour, 10 hour car ride, whether that's like one of our good friends, Reagan Lydale, she just got flown to Texas, whether it's something like that. Um, we just really want to expand as much as we can, get out there, get as many fresh eyes on the two of us as we can, regardless of where it's at, regardless of how many people it's in front of. We're just trying to get ourselves out there.
Okay. The last thing I'm gonna touch on before I let you go, WWE recently started the ID system. Kylie Ray was ID'd at Freelance.
Sure
Um,
was.
is that something that you're paying attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'd have to be a fool to be an independent wrestler and not be paying attention to that. Because a lot of us don't fully know what all that could entail. They just a couple days ago said that there are now championships for the ID talent. So we don't know what that is limited to. We don't know, like, there could be a WWE ID championship match on a freelance show sometime soon. Like, we have no idea. We don't know if only ID people can compete for it or what the deal is with that, but it's something that has definitely piqued the curiosity of a lot of people, that myself included, that I've talked to. Um, we've had a freelance, we had a seminar with Gabe Sapolsky not too long ago, who is very much in charge of scouting the independent talent and specifically the ID'd people. And he told us pretty much from start to finish what they're looking for when it comes to talent that they are IDing. So we've gotten a grasp on that. And now, like, myself and people that I train with, we know exactly what we need to work on, exactly what we need to show the next time we can get a set of eyes like Gabe Sapolsky's on us, uh, what we need to show him, what we've worked on, how we've grown as performers to hopefully be somebody that they consider for something like that.
Okay. Does them giving you like a criteria make it easier for you to develop what you need skill wise to get to that level?
Absolutely. Because I remember I had a I was fortunate enough for the seminar that I had with Gabe Sapolsky. We all had matches, so we all got to wrestle in front of him. And I was one of the few people that was on the show the next day where they ID'd Kylie. So I was able to take what he told me to work on and immediately show him the next day and then get more feedback. So in the span of 48 hours, I was able to wrestle in front of him twice and get feedback, get told something to work on. And now it's something to where like the more you show that you're coachable and you're working on exactly what you're being told to work on, you feel like you're in a better spot. And like you asked if it helps you grow more, it absolutely does.
Okay. Mr. Stone Ambrose, I think you have quite the future. From looking at it, you've been in
Thank you.
this industry for 2 years and you've still got a lot to achieve, but you've achieved quite a lot in that short span of time. Um, if interested, I'd be looking forward to maybe catching up with you 6 months to a year, something like that.
Absolutely.
Okay. With that said, is there anything I know we did at the beginning? Is there anything you want to plug just in case before we get going?
Yeah, just keep an eye on my social media at the Stone Ambrose on both Instagram and Twitter. I will be plugging every show that I will be on in 2025. There's quite a few. I'm very fortunate to have been asked for shows all the way up to December. So there will be plenty of chances if you're trying to come see me. I try and post as much as I can to showcase myself and the shows that I'm on. So if you can drop me a follow, I'd be more than appreciative. And yeah, come join me for this journey. See where it
Sounds
goes.
sounds good. Thank you, man. I will leave this off on. See you next time.
Sounds good. See you next time. Thank you.